guys, I apologize. I want to make sure I'm getting some support from Aaron McIntosh on some of the minutes, so I just want to make sure we do get that annotated right. So if you could ask for that again, Chairman, that'd be great.
So Director Austin, if you would be so kind to take order, we'll start with item number 1.
Schaff?
Here.
Cloutier?
Here.
Vogel? Here. Harrison? Absent. Knapp?
Here.
Korth?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
Tehran?
Here.
Go.
Here.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2, approval of agenda.
I'll approve.
Support.
A motion to approve the agenda was made by Coe. It was supported by Korth. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passed. Item number 3, approval of minutes of the April 20th, 2026 semi-annual informational meeting. A motion to approve the minutes of the April 20th, 2026 semi-annual informational meeting was made by Vogel. It was supported by Coe. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passed. Item number 4, approval of minutes of the April 20th, 2026 regular meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
A motion to approve the minutes of the April 20th, 2026 regular meeting was made by Schaff. It was supported by Tehran. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passed. Moving on to item number 5, I'd like to open the floor to any public comment. Seeing there's no public comment, we'll move on to item number 6, unfinished business. An election of the DDA board members for the fiscal year 2026-2027 from Director Austin.
All right, thank you, Chairman Knapp. Just to clarify, this is an election of the board officers. You guys are already on the board as our board members, but so we had this on the agenda. It's usually for the first meeting of every year. You guys remember I neglected to get it on the meeting last year. We did it a little bit later, but this last meeting we didn't have enough. We had a quorum for the whole meeting, but we didn't have enough people to vote on those board member or board officer positions. I did it too. So now that we have more of the board, I would just recommend that we roll through this. Obviously, we have the 3 positions of chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. I annotated who we currently have in those roles or who are in those roles are in 25 and 26. For each position, if somebody could recommend a person for that position, or if that person would to state that they are running for that position again, or they would like to be in that position again, then somebody please make a motion. If it's seconded, then you would vote, and then we'd move on to the next one, and we'll do it for those 3.
We do all 3 in once or one at a time?
One at a time, please.
I nominate Justin Knapp for chairperson.
Support.
And I will abstain from the voting. Vogel made a motion to nominate and elect Justin Knapp as the chairperson of the DDA board for the fiscal year 2026-2027. It was supported by Korth. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Do it again. We gotta do it again.
You're good. You're good.
Passed. A motion to nominate and elect Lindsay Vogel as the vice chairperson for the DDA board for the fiscal year 2026-2027. I'll go ahead and make that motion.
I'll second.
A motion to nominate and elect Vogel as vice chairperson for the DDA board for the fiscal year 2026-2027 was made by Knapp. It was supported by Coe. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passed. And do we have a motion to nominate and elect Shelley Cloutier as the secretary of the DDA board for the fiscal year 2026-2027?
So moved.
A motion to nominate and elect Cloutier as Secretary of the DDA Board for the fiscal year of 2026-2027 was made by Korth. It was supported by Vogel. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passed. Moving on to item number 7, new business. A review and consider renewal of Placer AI locational analytics service subscription for the fiscal year of 2026-2027 by Director Austin.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Knapp. So the first item we have on our agenda here is this renewal. This is obviously the subscription service that you guys know we've had for the past 2 years. This will be the 3rd year in a row. There is a modest increase of $551 in this year's subscription. But I'm just gonna roll through kind of some of the stuff I've highlighted and some of the things that I've actually used this for, but then also some of the things that I still intend on increasing my capacity. Much like, you know, probably the things in our pocket, it has capacity that we are not utilizing it completely for. I do intend on, I've been doing roughly a webinar a month to try to increase my capability with it. But there's still tools coming out every month that they put out that provide new insights for market data, property, traffic, different things like that. So rolling through this here, this would represent the 3rd consecutive year of services from Placer AI. Over that time, the platform has become an important resource for evaluating visitor trends, consumer activity, event performance, and broader economic patterns in the downtown district. So you can see there the bullet points: visitor and foot traffic analytics, attendance, trade area, and customer origin mapping, knowing before and afters for a lot of the people visiting, business and retail trend analysis, void and market gap analysis, so where people are going instead of downtown Ada for certain things, expanded chain and commercial activity reporting, and as remapping integrations and everything there. So this has supported the DDA in a variety of initiatives, including obviously event evaluations, but parking and mobility considerations with some of the traffic data, pedestrian safety initiatives, just knowing where some of those streets are, some of the streets that have visibility also for marketing. We did that for some of our farmers market stuff. We intend on doing that in the future for where we know we're going to get the most eyes on different items. And then also additional safety initiatives and strategy for the downtown. So the platform also provides valuable benchmarking data that assists staff and stakeholders in understanding seasonal visitation patterns and overall district activity trends. Benchmarking is a function that they've kind of added. I've gotten over the past couple of years where I can actually benchmark other communities. I did this for parks one time, kind of comparing Ada Park's kind of frequency and visits to where another park might be getting that activity. Obviously something that's important that I can assist the Parks Department with a little bit as they're going through the millage discussion coming up this year, and something I did assist with them as they were working through that. But there is other gap analysis things where people are going for other stuff. So the service assists the DDA in evaluating current events and programming efforts through visitation and consumer behavior. It allows us to understand attendance trends, and it also supports some of our objectives there. Objective 1 and 2, I'll highlighted there: organizational priorities, valuable market data and trend that can be shared with businesses, property owners, developers, and community stakeholders. So I've had a couple of community engagement opportunities, whether I was going out and talking to the businesses about the infrastructure project that we're gonna execute here in the beginning of 27. Or some business roundtable or different engagements where I talk with businesses telling them, I have this data available for you. I mean, you guys are all business owners, most of you, so it's all available to you as well. As a service, I've told them, I've provided the packet of information for their property to them to study. So Nick at Nona's was asking, Jeff Hugger at Schnitz, I'm spacing on her name, she just got an award, the hotel manager for Ada Hotel. I talked to her about this and actually providing that packet of data to them to say, this is available to you. It tells you who's coming, who's going, and you can pull a lot from it. So that's been good to substantiate kind of our role with them. As you know, we kind of know that the DDA people are wondering in the past couple of years, trying to substantiate what our role is and everything. So, and then objective 2, optimizing events, obviously. Activation efforts, traffic patterns, mobility trends, and things like that. So I do believe that this continuation of the service benefits us, and I kind of provided a full report. First, you see the invoice there. There's a recommended action there, but I'm just going to pop through this report real quick. This probably looks kind of familiar to you guys. After certain events, I've kind of provided some of this. There's a pulse report that goes over all of Ada Township and provides trends that their algorithm and their AI platform has summarized for Ada Township. I'm going to try to get that report tuned specifically to the DDA because there's a lot of good synopsis that they've pulled from it. So I'll try to get that for you guys, but this is some of the hard data, obviously. 1.5 million users. Note the time frame, May 1, 2025 to April 30, 26. 1.5 million users, visitors, average dwell time 78 minutes. Visits year over year, you can kind of see it slowed down a little bit from year 3, 2, and 1. So, year over year from last year, up 0.5%. 2 years, 7.2%, and visits 8.1%, kind of that year over year there. But then you can see in the visits trend, it follows a seasonal cycle, like almost everything. In May, you can see it started to tick up. That's spring of 2025. Drops down in some of the colder weather. You can see some spikes when it comes to tinsel treats and trolleys, also 4th of July. And then I printed out the report at the end of April, so you can see it starting to climb again as we get warmer. It gets more walkable down here. The patios open up, all that good stuff. Daily visits, probably not a big surprise to people there. I kind of seeing Fridays stick out there. Hourly visit time frame, also not a big surprise. A little dip after lunch, and then it spikes back up for dinner, it looks like. Visitor journey routes. So this obviously will be effective for us. There's a couple different platforms for this, studying some of the traffic patterns, but we can still see Thornapple River Drive coming in past the dam. It's still a very heavily trafficked road. And then also M21 there with some of the routes there being, you can see the kind of the route or the estimates for the number of vehicles there. So trade area, this one got cut off a little bit, so I apologize, but I just want to let you guys know. Trade area coverage by distance, this is the amount, the distance that most of our visitors are traveling to get here. And the first is, or the highest proportion is 3 to 5 miles. That's that one just above it. And then the second highest bar right there is 10 to 30 miles. So kind of an interesting jump there between the first group and the second group. 10 to 30 kind of probably being more of a day trip type people or, office visits or business visits. And then the 3 to 5 miles, you could probably classify a little bit differently. But then going left to right, it's 1 to 2 miles, 2 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 10, and then that 10 to 30 when it jumps up again. Looking at the visitors by origin, that's the heat map of where our visitors are coming from over the past year from May 1st to April 30th, with the zip codes kind of tied to the proportion. So largest proportion is still 49301, and then you can kind of roll through there. And that list does continue more than what I've been able to show here, show some of the more distant ones and everything. Favorite places, these are the places that the visitors that came in and that were logged coming in here also visited the most during that time frame. So you can see where they just had to visit those places a certain frequency, also including Ada or downtown Ada. So it's not necessarily the before and after. It's just places that other people that have come here like to go as well. Looking at the before and after, I know this one freaks people out a little bit. I get it, but this is data that's out there. It's agreed upon user agreements that are out there, and it's really good obviously for us to know for kind of business acquisition if we were to engage in some of that, but also understanding kind of what's some gap analysis where people are going beforehand before they come down here and after. So before and afters there, you see that's the top 10 for where people were at right before they came downtown Ada, and the top 10 for right after. Vehicle traffic volume is right there. I think I might have mistaken that one. Maybe I spoke out of turn with that other map of visitor journey routes. No, not the journey routes. So there's the actual traffic volume there. And then we get into demographic data. So on page, it says 11 out of 24. If you're looking at it, that's that map showing where 70%, the blue shaded area, 70% of the visits are coming from, and then 50 and 30%. When you look at the colors get a little distorted as you're looking in there, but showing that the smaller amount of the shaded areas, that the color changes, that's where a lot of our visits are coming from, or the smaller proportion of our visits as it gets closer and closer, which is kind of what you would expect. And then the demographic data and the economic demographic data provided to us by STI Pop Stats. And if you search STI Pop Stats on Google, it's a data or a data grouping that is publicly available. That kind of tells you exactly what they gather from the general public, and they have different ways of viewing this. STI Pop Stats and a couple of different ones that are available to us. But the middle of these bar graphs is the national average. So basically, if you see a group of people that is right of the national average, that means there's more people coming downtown higher than the national average in that metric. And to the left, then it's people that are below the national average or below the national average coming here to downtown. So middle is national average, and then obviously there's a lot of different data points through that: ethnicity, household incomes. It even gets into the degree type for that, disposable household income, and different metrics like that. So this is one that I have provided to a couple of different businesses, just letting them know that we have this available to them. I'm not hiding it from anybody. It's available to you guys as board members and business owners. But I thought this was kind of effective. Obviously, they need to have the time to be able to apply it, and it can be a little bit intimidating, but that's available to them. So I will open up to you guys for any questions. Like I said, the recommended action on this is to approve this next year as my capacity increases, and I thought it's been effective for the DDA.
Does this contract cover the whole township, or is it exclusively the zoned area of the DDA?
It covers whatever property geofence I ask them to put on it, so it does cover the whole township. Township is one that the Pulse report is actually, there's a Pulse report that they've created, like I talked about, that had some good conclusions, and also run through their algorithm and kind of basing off of the full report, and it was the full township report on some of that. Not necessarily these metrics, but some other items.
But like as an example, does Wesley Deason find this interesting?
He absolutely does, yes. Yep.
So is there proration considered for parks versus the DDA?
So they have not accessed it as much as I would kind of ask, to be like, hey, I think you guys should contribute to this as well. It's possible that that's coming, given especially what they're doing this year with the millage and everything. But the amount of times that they've reached out and just said, hey, could you give me just a number? And that was the most interesting data to them. I told them there's more it can do for sure, but then that requires obviously me to kind of bite that off and kind of get into it. But yes, there's been very few requests, but it's mainly about numbers for a couple of events and things like that.
Probably grow with time.
I think so.
At some point, maybe it'll be material. Also, what, say the Trails Committee was interested in data. Because the trails run so close to the road, would the data be corrupted more than likely?
I would say that's probably a good assumption because of it is the panel visits based off of the device traveling into that area. I can definitely figure out with our consumer manager or our customer manager if because every day they've figured out how to kind of extrapolate those things. Like as of right now, it's a little bit difficult, or 6 months ago, they didn't have a way to kind of separate 2- and 3-story buildings with the visits, and so I couldn't say that somebody was coming up to you, Justin and Edward Jones, and they weren't going to Croft House below you. And obviously in an urban environment, that's probably pretty important for us with mixed use retail and commercial down here. And then they've since started to figure out ways to kind of have a very reliable way of telling you how to do that. Or figuring out how to do that. So it's advancing, but there are still some assumptions you can make based off of where the devices are traveling. But the customer manager they're readily available to kind of answer any of those and try to pull those things out if we can.
Just 2 quick notes. There's a couple of years ago that I participated in a phone call with Placer AI, and I was blown away at the depth and the scope of the tool. We just scratched the surface of it too, but the intelligence, the data that can be mined from these analytics is really, really incredible. And then the second thing, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, at Michigan Software Labs, we held kind of an informational meeting with the Ada Business Association and business owners and Ada, and might be a good idea to do that again every year or every other year, just to really educate and show everybody what the tool can do and how it might help facilitate their business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The other thing about it is because of the cost of it, and our interest in the group relationship with the various organizations, it may be a binding thread between the groups if we cross-shared that data.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, maybe I'm saying, maybe it's illegal against the terms and conditions of AI, but the Placer AI, but if we had a master account but then cross-shared the data, maybe they would see a benefit of that, even if we just did it as a DDA benefit
Mm-hmm.
to the organization.
Yeah, I mean, the people that I gave the data to, and I showed them kind of just a property report, I kind of anticipated that they would come back and say, can you send me one of those every quarter, basically. Haven't gotten that kind of response yet, and I get it, people are very busy, and if it's not palatable and you're able to break it down, which the online platform where you kind of hover over different data points and it tells you exactly what that means rather than just color a number and you're trying to kind of pull it out of your own brain and figure out how to digest it, is easier. But I've told them, if you have any questions, let me know. I hadn't gotten that response of like, hey, can you, but that was what I anticipated was, hey, I can get you I can get a report on the village pharmacy and different buildings.
You presented it in such a way that you were willing and able and
Yes.
wanted to do that for them.
Yep, I figured if they would find it, it's only been about 3 different properties. It was just down here as I was talking to quite a few of the businesses with the infrastructure project. But I said, hey, this is available to you. This is what it looks like, and if I can send you these reports. And I figured that they'd probably see something that said quarterly or annually or something like that. But I had not gotten that response yet. But I kind of agree with you in that it could be a through line like that. I would obviously be a little bit nervous about establishing agreements on cost sharing with multiple different entities like that. But
The idea would be is not so that you would share it, but that because it's expensive enough that we would present that to the organizations willingly, and it gets to anybody technically, that it's something we
Gotcha.
take time to help them.
Gotcha. Okay, just a more public display of this kind of function provided by the DDA.
Yeah, because technically the account, it's ADA's, but it's for all the people of ADA, so
Mhm.
consequently, any of us should be able to ask for data.
Yep.
technically.
Can you recap the cost and then who pays for it?
Yeah. So as of right now, over the past 3 years, there's been kind of modest increases. This increase is $551 from last year, so a total of $11,576 for a 26 to 27 subscription term. This was baked into our contract services budget. We put that in there last year, so we do have the funds set aside for it if you would like to. But because of the large amount of the renewal, I wanted to bring it back to you guys and just make sure that I was good to proceed if you thought it was still valuable.
It's completely funded by DDA.
It is currently. Yep.
How about the township?
They have not contributed. Nope.
Would you like them? I mean, do they like to contribute?
Well, that's kind of where I was going with respect to the Parks Department.
Mhm.
And because the DDA is currently, the zone is so focused on the DDA, the area the DDA is responsible for, I'm trying to find the specific value add to the township itself to share part of that. That's why I was asking about the Parks Department and the Trails Committee and all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a pretty heavy lift. That's the other reason that I was saying that if we're gonna share it across these other organizations, it helps to justify the cost more, and even the likes of like your company and your company. I mean, all your, if people wanna ask questions about, what's the traffic specifically on River Street in front of my office, my restaurant kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That helps justify the cost because you're providing a community service with that money as well.
Could
Sure.
we clarify the scope a little bit? I think it was helpful, this one that shows before and after. That's saying people are coming into our geofence, here's where they went before, here's where they went after. So the businesses that are showing here are not necessarily related to ADA.
Mhm.
It's just where people, the tendencies of where people are going. It just happens to be that some of those businesses are in Ada, like Vitale's is in
Yep.
here. So they went into Ada, and then afterward, they could have went to Vitale's, went to downtown Ada, and then went back to Vitale's. But to that geofence, so you mentioned it's the whole township though, so if they enter in the township, they're covered, or is the DDA district?
This report is specifically about the, at that first page, when you guys see that geofence right
Okay,
there, which is not our entire district, as you guys know, it actually extends all the way
So,
up.
so our scope, we're focusing on the DDA districts. It seems, it's helpful to provide data for others. I'm sure we could get that through this, but really, if the DDA is paying for it and the DDA taxpayers are paying for it, that, hopefully we're providing the most value to those that are paying for the service. And to that, is it, it seems that we could get, if we're getting this granular on places outside the district, it seems like there's a lot of data then that's very granular to specific businesses or even floors of businesses within this. And is that something that we should be a little bit more proactive with providing, some sort of summary dashboard or something that just automatically goes out? Because I think, I don't
Okay.
think about it. I'm on the DDA and I haven't even thought about stopping in and getting data relative to, a business that I'm associated with, because it's out of sight, out of mind, right? And I think if some of that was more readily available, maybe the most valuable part, or just a simple, it'd be helpful to know where people go when they come into Ada. Like
Yeah.
At what times and where at, because that might like spark something as a business owner mindset. Oh man, people are here at 3 o'clock on Fridays, and wherever. A lot of them are at the garage bar. And it's like, okay, well that's a good time to, run a sale or something if you're, at a local business nearby. So maybe being a little more proactive, because it's great data, but we are spending a lot of money, and sometimes it just sits on the shelf, and you look at it, and 3 businesses look at it.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's the annual report that, like our semi-annual informational meeting that we went through, that, I kind of told you guys at the last meeting that I am hoping to bolster that to a better presentation. That, I figured that kind of format, there's some DDAs that kind of, it's just a more pleasing kind of presentation that's kind of wave tops, but also kind of economic development data, so that it's published and people can access it rather than just it's in our minutes and we did do it, check the box. But that I can imagine that would be either completely bolstered by this, or it would be something completely separate and said, this is the Place Area AI data for Q1 of 2026. You can access it here. We can put it up on our website or on our Facebook saying, this is where you can access it for kind of aggregating kind of what's been going on. It includes year-over-year trends and things like that. But yeah.
And then if you want to know more, you can come sit down and get really into the weeds, but just like some high-level stuff that I think broadly the district or our DDA area would be helpful to see.
If you guys would like me to kind of have that conversation following this, I would say, because the renewal is coming up, and we're heading into event season. So Monday we've got Memorial Day ceremony, then we've got obviously Beers at the Bridge, 4th of July, Beers at the Bridge. So I would like to have this functioning and the account up and running. But if you guys would like me to have that proportionality kind of discussion with Township and Parks to kind of broach that moving forward, then I would definitely do that.
So out of curiosity, we mentioned looking at the trail thing. Is there any way to get this hyper-focused enough to help you with the parking thing, so you don't have to stand out there every month and check things? But just to see what the average distance people are willing to go is, since we're already kind of tracking who's coming and going from where. I mean, obviously, you're not counting the cars, so you're eventually going to have to do the car counts anyways. But just on event days or things like that, it's like, how far are people actually willing to go when we kind of reinforce this, like, you can walk in Ada itch that not everyone listens to? Like, hey, look, you do have a lot of people that are willing to walk. Like, make this more obvious.
To your point, I mean, there's an aspect of it that I don't think I can get super granular, because it extrapolates the data and it puts it into their algorithm. And so like, that's why we've always done counts at our events, or at least Beers at the Bridge, so that we kind of we could kind of bounce it off the algorithm and be like, how close was it? But to your point, knowing where people are going and knowing where we can get out there and advertise beforehand, I know you're not, I know you're coming into Ada based off of, you know, Headley and M21. You probably don't even think about Bronson. Have you guys tried parking on Bronson? And just knowing that that's where the bulk of it, and that does it is what some of this shows. But I think there's probably some aspects to that I can maybe zoom in a little bit more and kind of understand that. Because right now, Regis has assembled on the 22nd, actually, Friday the 22nd, where Regis is coming out. They created that platform they took from Fishbeck, so that myself and my intern help this summer will be kind of going out and doing that additional count. And they did create like a page where we can log those things. If it is redundant, then I'd like to obviously figure that out. But obviously Regis is something that we kind of pay for through kind of Township and some other stuff. So, and we're more closely affiliated with them rather than a very expensive service like this. But
Oh, yeah, I understand. And that one makes a lot of sense. I was just curious if there was other ways that we could really
Sure.
focus this into the tasks that keep getting put on us.
yeah, I think that's something definitely to peel into, for sure. Yes, sir.
Move to approve the renewal of Placer AI for the next fiscal year for the amount of 11,000, what was it, 551 something?
76.
576. 11,576.
I'll second.
A motion to approve the annual renewal of Placer AI services for the Ada Downtown Development Authority in the amount of $11,576 for the fiscal year of 2026, 2027 subscription term, for the 2026, 2027 subscription term was made by Korth. It was supported by Frost. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passed. Item number 7B, review and consider consumer's energy agreement for the installation of an overhead streetlight at the intersection of Ada Drive and Bronson Street.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Knapp. So this is a proposal for you guys that does need to go forward to the Township Board, as it's a contract agreement. It is very similar to our current agreements with other streetlight services, but it is a new installation that was requested partially by our fire chief, Dave Murray. He reached out to me basically saying that this intersection, obviously with visibility concerns and things like that, also in off-season, not to say off-season, in colder seasons with the amount of events that are happening and the decrease in the daylight and everything, we actually do supplement the lighting on this intersection with light towers for tinsel treats and trolleys. Pumpkin prowl not as much because it doesn't get as dark as quickly, but I think we did possibly plan to put a light tower out there based off the fact that there are 3 different crossings coming from 3 pretty critical areas, being the pedestrian tunnel, the sidewalk under the bridge, and then also the Ada Drive crosswalk there. So he reached out to me. Was really hoping that was something that we would entertain, and given that we are supplementing and highly prioritizing pedestrian safety, this in our objectives, in our goals, and we are moving that direction with a lot of other things. I figured that there was no reason that we wouldn't try to supplement the visibility on the intersection there. So I reached out to Consumers Energy. It's only $230 to install and in that location. And it would be a typical kind of overhead street light that they have off of those poles, not our globe street lights that you guys kind of see. There's one across the way, but apparently has been pretty insufficient, I guess, but aesthetically very pleasing. But it's going to be right in that location. I kind of put that line there showing where it would extend, providing extra visibility there. So this was kind of endorsed by Chief Murray. I looked into it and I figured it kind of aligned with a lot of our goals there. I don't see it causing any additional concerns or any additional issues there. So this is a written agreement that I would ask for a recommendation of approval for me to forward this to the Township Board for their consideration.
I'll make the motion to recommend approval to the Township Board of the Consumers Energy Agreement. for the installation and ongoing service of a street light at the intersection of Ada Drive and Bronson Street as presented.
Second.
A motion to recommend approval of the Township Board of the Consumers Energy Agreement notification number 107-647-4396 for the installation and ongoing service of a streetlight at the intersection of Ada Drive and Bronson Street as presented. It was made by Co. It was supported by Tehran. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passed. Item number 7C, presentation of the final report from Notre Dame School of Architecture on the Ada Township Hall Design Study and Civic Center from Township Manager Julius Succi.
Thank you, DDA Board. Just wanted to give an update. So we have been working hard with Notre Dame, the School of Architecture, on the Township Hall concept and kind of corridor plan. The final presentation was provided on April 13th. And so wanted to just talk about a couple of the highlights, where we started, where we're at, what's going to be happening next, and then be available to answer any questions that you might have. So the Township engaged Notre Dame in 2025 for a concept plan for Township Hall, but then also really looking at the corridor plan of how that Township Hall building would enact or engage with other buildings so that we weren't building one standalone building. We were looking at the entire corridor and how it would all interconnect. I feel like I'm talking really loud now. So Notre Dame came to town in August of 2025. They held a couple days of charrettes. I know some of you may have attended that. But one of the things that they did also is they spent, I think, 3 or 4 days walking around downtown Ada, visiting the community, also pulling through a lot of historical archives of pictures for inspiration of what Ada used to look like, even looking at the schoolhouse with the old tower. And so really trying to identify what the inspiration was for a potential building, but then what we had in downtown and how these would all interplay. The final plan, like I said, was presented. We did do additional sessions. So one of the things we tried to do is not only present the final presentation to the board, but we had heard from some community members. They said, we just want to be a little bit more engaged. And so we had held special work sessions with Marianne Casado from Notre Dame. She was available to meet with residents. We held sessions every hour. We also held special Zoom sessions for those that weren't able to attend in public or in person. And so overall, I think we've had a good process to this point. The next step, so the township right now is reviewing a proposal from Dixon Architecture for taking the concept plan from Township Hall and then making it a buildable building. So right now what we have is nice, but it is a concept plan. The concept plan as identified is around 24,000 square feet for a Township Hall building. I do not anticipate that the final building will be 23,000 or 24,000 square feet. So there's a number of things that went into that, that number. We worked with Integrated Architecture on a space needs study in 2019. We updated that in 2024. And then as Notre Dame came on, there was additional conversation about state requirements for storage, for elections, for different things. And so all of this was kind of put in the concept plan, but we do need to work with Dixon Architecture to kind of look at that and then just double check, duplicate, make sure there's no duplication of areas, make sure that the building is right sized for our needs. One of the things that I think is really important though that doesn't necessarily get shared with the public is right now we own the building next door, 7351 Bronson, and all of our election storage is in that building. So we've literally purchased a separate house to store tabulators, all this different election material, and we don't have space in our current building. And so when we look at these spaces and what our square footage needs, it's not just office space, it's not just public space, but it's also secure storage space, it's file storage. Right now we also store files out at our water tower, and so our assessor in the planning department, different departments, if they have a FOIA request in a certain time frame, they have to go out to the water tower to get those records. which is not super fun in the winter, because I've been out there trying to open the door when it's frozen shut. And so again, if we're looking at building a new building, is trying to make sure that when we're doing it, we're making sure it fits the needs not only now, but into the future. One of the things you'll notice when you look at the plan, it's a nice building. This building does not cost any more than a traditional commercial building. I've talked to Dixon Architecture, and obviously there's, going to be details that need to be worked out, but realistically what Notre Dame has presented is not going to cost $1 million or $2 million more because it's a nicer building. Realistically, all of the components that are in the design concept are pieces that are already included throughout downtown Ada, and from a construction standpoint are in line with those same construction costs. And so we had a meeting, and we had a resident who had said, the building just looks really expensive. And we kind of explained that, it's not any more expensive. I'm not saying it's not going to cost a lot of money, but it's not like it's going to cost an additional amount to get this, design concept. And they said, well, I don't know. It's hard to support because it just looks really expensive. And then Marianne, she said, do you want me to build an ugly building for the same cost? And the idea behind that is, we want a civic building that's going to stand the test of time. This is going to be, if the township moves, it'll be our third building in 30 years that the township has called home, which to me seems wild for a municipal government to move offices that often. And so as we look, we're not looking at a 10-year build or a 20-year build. This is really intended to house Ada Township for the future, 50 years, 100 years. And also kind of go back to a time when civic buildings mattered. We didn't just build buildings that were disposable. We moved into this building because someone made a decision that we wanted to save this church, and that's wonderful. But it was really not intended to focus on the township's needs. It was intended to focus on doing something else, but the township would just be able to achieve that for them. And so I think realistically, the plan is very detailed. There's a lot of interesting concepts. We've got Fulton Street having roundabouts. We understand that people are going to look at that and say, well, this is crazy. We can't do that. The Envision Ada plan more than 10 years ago had roundabouts on Fulton. So this is not anything that is, so wild that hasn't been discussed before. When we talk about vehicle traffic, Thornapple River, and I like to bring this up all the time, Thornapple River from River Street over to Faith Street gets 11,500 cars a day. Can anyone tell me how many cars Fulton gets? Fulton gets 12,500 cars. So we have a 5-lane freeway that gets 1,000 cars more a day than a 2-lane. And so, again, this is based on traffic data from the state of Michigan. And so there's just conversations that need to take place. Doesn't mean all these are going to happen at the same time. We understand that moving the Michigan Department of Transportation is a Herculean task. We just finally crossed the finish line with the pedestrian safety ordinance with the Kent County Road Commission. And that's been, I don't know, probably 20, 25 years that it's been discussed, talked about, and finally getting it there. And so we want to have big goals. We want to have, objectives that we think are possible, will improve the community. And we think, that connection between Amway and downtown is really important. Because as they have a lot of staff there, and we want our DDA to interact, our downtown to interact with businesses, we need to make sure that pedestrians have safe passage, but also that vehicles are safe. We get a lot of accidents at Ada Drive and Fulton. And so one of the things, and I was just in Carmel, Indiana this past weekend because I was at a basketball tournament, and Notre Dame's team, they actually included the mayor from Carmel, Indiana. And he talked a lot about, when they started moving towards roundabouts and how, everyone came to the meetings and said, this is never going to work. I spent all weekend there. It was amazing. You didn't have to stop anywhere. You're just constantly driving. It's super safe. I never felt like it was going to be an issue. And again, we understand Michigan is slowly catching up. I know the road commission's installing more roundabouts on Myers Lake and 10 Mile and 10 Mile and Pine Island in different locations, but it's something that over time I think we can hopefully push for. The township went through a process requesting proposals for the next step. So the question would be, well, how did you guys select Dixon Architecture? We, in 2025, went through a process to seek requests for proposals from Progressive, from Dixon Architecture, and from Integrated Architecture, which had completed the space needs study. That included interviews with each of the three firms, and ultimately Dixon Architecture was the one that was identified based on the committee, based on reviewing some of the buildings, and then also I think just what Dixon Architecture has done for Ada as a community. If there's one entity that would make sense to build the Township Hall, it might make sense to have the person who's built the rest of Ada be that person. And again, it's taking the concept and then taking it to the next step. So I mean, it's not as if Dixon's going to come in and change the design. I mean, the design exterior is probably going to look pretty similar to what's shown in the concepts. Obviously, there's tweaks on size, tweaks on different components. But let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Desires to be under construction by the end of the year. There's lots to get to. There's lots to finalize. So, like I said, our township board is going to be considering the proposal. Right now, it's at our Buildings, Grounds, Utility Committee for review. Then we need to figure out financing. We need to figure out construction manager. We need to find a contractor. I mean, there's a lot of things. So we have a good timeline, I think. Our goal is to be finished with the building by December 31, 2028. So we have an agreement with the community church that the parking lot will be restored and completed. It is an obligation that the DDA the township had taken on as part of the purchase of the property. And we've talked about that previously with the potential to add 25 to 45 spaces with the new township hall construction and the DDA potentially participating in that. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or Tom, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add. I know you've been actively involved in this process and I might have missed something.
I think Drew's did a really nice job of summarizing everything. We just have spent an awful lot of time and energy in the last year working on this and trying to pull it forward. I was instrumental in having Notre Dame be involved for the two reasons. One was their design initiative that they specialize in as a community services, their 100-mile initiative that's helping a lot of communities reinvent and improve their downtowns, so that we fit within that profile, which was nice. But secondly, the language of our PVM district specifically states that the architecture of the village, which is the sweet spot of the DDA, is supposed to be from the period 1850 to 1940. And when I looked at some of the proposals from some of the other companies and some of the things that I'm seeing, like as an example, Progressive is the firm behind the new retirement village that's being built on Fulton Street in a year or so from now. And just in general, architecture has a heavy modern vibe to it at this point. And Notre Dame, as a mission in its architecture program, has retained what is called strictly classical architectural design as their real mission. If you look online and you Google it or you ChatGPT it or whatever, you'll find that it's considered the best architecture program in the United States for classical architecture. And so those are the reasons why I really wanted Notre Dame involved. And fortunately, the board agreed with me, and so we got that started, a long time ago, maybe 16 months ago now. And anyway, this is the culmination of it. So I hope that based on all of our input from the people that were involved, everybody seems to like it, and I'm hoping that the support from the DDA will continue with that feeling. So.
Yeah, I think one of the pieces too, I mean, again, it is a concept. We want to make sure that we communicate with residents, with businesses, with anyone that's interested. I don't anticipate building a 24,000 square foot building. I mean, I think it'll be closer to 18 to 20,000 square feet. And that's based on needs assessments, also cost concerns, but also the board wants to make sure if we build a really classical building, that we're not looking at adding on to it in 5 or 10 years, because that gets a little bit harder with a classic building. And so I'm available if any DDA board member has questions, wants to have additional conversation. I'm happy to sit down, talk through different processes, talk through some of the reasoning behind some of the stuff. And if you talk to businesses that have questions, I want to set up a time with Kevin. We're going to do something with ABA as well. We're going to touch a little bit on it at our update, our annual, kind of state of the township here. Is that next Thursday? This Thursday. And then maybe do a separate session that just focuses on kind of this piece. Because we do understand when you look at this, there's going to be property owners in this area who look at this and say, well, who decided there's a building, or who decided this is going to go on my property? The idea is it's all a plan. I mean, the same way in Vision Ada originally, where Village East now, there was little cottages, now are 4-story buildings. And so it's a concept. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. We also understand part of the concept includes a lot of shared parking. So I mean, if this vision with all these buildings on Headley is to ever to come to fruition, it really needs more shared parking than what is there currently. And we understand there's private property owners that might say, well, I don't plan on making my parking public, and that's okay. One of the things that Notre Dame stressed is urbanism doesn't have a deadline. So I mean, whether it's now, whether it's 5 years from now, whether it's 30 years from now, realistically, we're building the framework that allows us to support the growth that is envisioned here. And it's really building on what Envision Ada started. Then a number of years ago, the old bank buildings, and then EHTC, we had a developer come to us, and we said, we like the building, but we really think we need to be planning about this whole block. And so then that kind of created the C block. And so this is kind of creating the next block on top of it. And again, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. The township isn't pushing to create another block of downtown, but we know realistically, private property owners are going to say, I want to activate my property. I want to activate my space. How can I do that? And we just want to try to be good stewards to provide them the tools to say, hey, this is what it could be, and this is why we think this might fit into what we're trying to do long term. So happy to answer any questions if anyone has them.
Just one. I know they went through basically everything that we have done in the past to do this. Is there any intention to merge this in any way with the master planning that we already have, since this is a whole new section and they used our existing master plan and stuff like that as a base to do it? But like, they've done this huge plan. I mean, he goes through almost every section and they call out different things, and it seems like now we have two, and it's like it would be a shame for this to like be part of the township hall and then just kind of get put in a box because the township hall got completed, when they went so much farther than that to try to show how best it can integrate throughout the whole area.
I definitely think there's an opportunity for it to be folded into the master plan, maybe as an appendix, maybe by reference. I mean, realistically, it's not changing any of the underlying zoning districts, but it is something that could be called upon for future. And that's something we can work with Director Said as well as the Planning Commission to determine where that may be appropriate.
Okay.
Can you touch on the flexible space of the Assembly Hall still in the...
Yeah, one of the pieces we talked about with the township board and then with the public, was if you're going to build a building, is there an opportunity to make some of that space more public? Taxpayers aren't necessarily thrilled when you say we're going to build a building and then we have a color code that shows all the places residents are not allowed because we want a secure building. Right now, our building is not secure. Residents can walk in, whether they're happy or unhappy, they can walk in and basically walk into anyone's office without restriction. It's something that we would like to change in the future because that's just the way of the world. And so we would like to move to key cards. We would like to move to a little bit more secure building, but we don't want to take away from using the public space. And so right now, this room, the idea is this same size room would be in the new Township Hall building. Not any bigger, not any smaller, but the same size. The idea would be, though, we're not taking the pews with us. And so we would have flexible space that could be used for meetings, for, whether it's ABA wants to use it, whether it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the groups that use room A and B at the library, that use Roselle. So it just provides another opportunity for flexible space, and that can be public. But one of the nice things on the design is the doors of that assembly hall will open into a green space that is next to the building. So it does open up for more opportunity to engage when someone might say, hey, I want to have something here, but it's beautiful out, so we really want to try to merge an indoor-outdoor activity. Now the township, in my estimation, and ultimately this is going to come down to what the township board wants to see, but we're not planning on saying, hey, we're going to start advertising for weddings. We're going to, that's not the goal. The goal is just to provide another public space if people would like to use it. But if people don't want to use it, that's okay too. The Roselle Park is full all year.
And I don't think that Roselle Park was anticipated when that building was built. It was the same approach you just said. We're just gonna build a space that's flexible. It evolved into being one of the most sought after spaces, and we didn't even anticipate that.
Yeah, and one of the biggest reasons is the indoor-outdoor space. So I mean, for grad parties, I mean, it's the best location because you could open up those doors and people have tents, different things, activities outside. And so we also think with tying into the farmers market, that green space next to Township Hall will be really important because it's a way to help activate additional pieces of the farmers market that could then even be utilized, whether it's KDL, whether it's other entities that want to maybe use that public space while the farmers market's going on. There's just a lot of opportunity. And so trying to make sure all these pieces speak to each other. One of the other components of the design is someone might say, well, it looks like the front's on Headley, but on the backside, on the parking lot, it still looks really nice. And that's intentional. We didn't want the back of the building to look like a traditional back of the building. I mean, the idea is this faces the farmer's market, faces the community church, it faces Blue House Square. It's all these things where we want it to be the center, kind of part of this civic core. And so we didn't feel we would be doing it justice if all of a sudden you're in the farmer's market and you're looking at the back of Township Hall and it really looks like the back of a building. And no one really cared about that design. We can't have a basement in that area because the water table is so high. And so that's what requires the third floor. The third floor is all just storage. It is not office space, but it is storage. And also a lot of our mechanicals, so they're hidden. So we don't have mechanical, any of our activities on the outside of the building. So trying to make sure the building looks clean and pleasant for those who are walking by it. So, but yeah, happy to answer any other questions. Or if after this meeting you have questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm here to answer whether it's your questions, business questions, resident questions. I'm happy to take my show on the road and talk to whoever I have to.
Are you charging for that community space?
So we do charge for community spaces, but there is different tiers depending on whether it's a nonprofit organization, whether it's, like KDL doesn't pay for use of the community rooms. We don't rent the space out right now because literally no one wants to use the church. But that would be something that we'd have to identify and look at and say, if it's during office, business hours of the township, maybe that cost is reduced. The reason Roselle is we charge a certain rate is the building facilities ground staff has to go, they have to set it up, they have to tear down, they have to make sure it's clean. A lot of those are sometimes after hours or on weekends, and so it's a little bit different from a pricing structure than if we're using, just during regular office hours.
I just want to add and just publicly show appreciation, one, to the township and Tom leading this effort, because being kind of different stakeholders, different hats through developer, business owner, DDA. There's a lot of people that have opinions about all of this and a lot of people that care, which is a great thing. We love that about Ada, but it's also, there is a lot of work that has to go into bringing all those opinions and thoughts and even the work that Julie's here doing to go on the road and willingness to do that. So a great appreciation for that. And to the building, I like the building. I mean, at first, the first charrette, it was like, whoa, I don't know what I was thinking, but when I saw that, it was a little bit, it kind of hits you like it's a big, it's a big building. I think your efforts to size it appropriately are good. But as I've traveled, Carmel or other areas, when you see some of these, with a term like not iconic, but historically present, like we're building Ada to last the test of time. We're not building a 20-year township hall. We're not building buildings here for 20 years. We're looking the test of time and something that solidifies and holds up to the standard that all of the business owners and residents and individuals that are investing in this village represents well. And so I really, I like the plan overall. Certainly a lot of details and nuances, but really appreciate the work that's been done and continue to be done. And I'm excited for this building. It's going to be a mark for where Ada's headed, and appreciate all your efforts.
Agreed.
I agree.
Is there an elevator on this building?
What?
Is there an elevator on this building? Elevator?
Oh, yeah, there will be an elevator from the first to the third floor.
What I think, I was part of most of the meetings and the shred and everything. I think this is a very well thought building, and it was working with the right people. Notre Dame was one of the best, and that was a really good choice. Dixon Architect is the best in my opinion, so that was part of what that became really nicely. And I think the next step is to pick the right contractor to build this.
Yep, and yeah, we'll be working with the Township Board and then Dixon Architecture once that proposal's reviewed and approved to then determine who that, contractor is to make sure that we're.
I take it there would be bidded out at least 3 or more contractors.
Yeah, I mean, the board will go through that process. I would fully anticipate whether it's a bid process or if it's an RFQ process, those are two different things. So the township has traditionally gone through an RFQ process, so it's a request for qualifications. And so really it's identifying which is the company that we want to work with and then working on the price. And the idea is that we don't want to chase the low bid. And so that is the process we used for the architecture component. It doesn't mean we do that for the contractor, but that has yet to be discussed. And we haven't had those conversations with the board or Dixon yet, so I'm not sure what that process will look like. But there will be bidding of some sort.
Yeah.
There's no one I'm not aware of anyone that's been identified. That we get contractors all the time that call us and ask, when's the Township Hall project going to start? Can we bid on it? And so we've had Rockford Construction, Earhart, Dan Boss. Everyone would like, obviously, to be involved in this project.
It's an excellent building. I have the 100% support.
Thank you.
One thing I just wanted to mention about the building, because I thought it was important, Mary Ann brought it up a couple times, but it speaks really well to Ada. So not only is this a classical style of architecture, it's specifically pre-war, pre-automobile, designed at a pedestrian level, which is not something that's done very often anymore. And since Ada is going so hard into walkable towns, the reason the scale of the building was done the way it was, and the reason it was done in all 4 sides in specific ways, is because it relates to people walking to it rather than driving to it, which is a really important distinction for how we're positioning Ada.
Yeah, even the front of the building, Mary Ann does a much better job explaining it than I. But essentially, the way it will line up is the front door of Township Hall would be lined up with kind of the access entry to the library and where it kind of comes out closer to Headley. And then the Township Hall is receded a little bit, the doors, and she always indicates it's to kind of receive the building, so you don't just have everything out to the street kind of pushing on each other. There's also opportunity to do, some different pedestrian things with raised, kind of, whether it's stamped concrete or bricks or something else, and then the ability to kind of shut down that area for a street party or a festival, kind of creating that civic core. So there's just a lot of opportunity and a lot of places we can go with it, but it is a very exciting project.
Well done.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Sushi. Appreciate it. Moving on to item number 8, reports and communications, a revenue and expenditure report as of 4/30/26.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Knapp. So you guys have the report there in front of you, 4/30/2026, revenue and expenditures. I don't have anything to highlight on this one.
Excuse me, Kevin.
Sir.
Have we published the ad for the downtown parking ordinance?
The ad for which report?
Approval of the ordinance?
The approval of you said parking ordinance?
Well, no, not parking, you have a.
Pedestrian safety.
Yeah, pedestrian safety.
Yes, yep, the earliest, I tried to get it on as early as possible, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the report too. But Tuesday, it'll be published, so June 18 is 30 days from that. Yep. But to your point, I'm sorry, it's not about the revenue and expenditure report, but I do intend on the Fishbeck parking plan making its way into public education materials. I just hadn't had the opportunity to kind of craft a good strategy for that yet, but.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were on, that got buried in the back of the Notre Dame thing. I missed
Yeah.
that, sorry.
Yes, sorry, no.
Sounds good. All right. Item number 8B, DDA Director Report.
Okay, awesome. So I'll give you guys a breakdown of last month's kind of progress and everything. Before I do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about Beers at the Bridge, but I wanted to introduce you guys to Sophie Zarnowski. She is my intern for the summer, helping out with events and everything, and I wanted to welcome her up to speak briefly and introduce herself to you guys.
Hi, I'm Sophie Zarnowski. I'm from Allendale, so just down the road. I'm going to be a sophomore at Michigan in the College of Architecture this fall, and I'm minoring in sustainability, so my interests kind of sustainability, planning, historical preservation, and I think Ada's realized a lot of these concepts, so it kind of brought me to interning here. And then, so right now I've just been working on like Beers at the Bridge logistics and graphics, as well as the Memorial Day stuff, the 4th of July parade graphics. Yeah, just working with Kevin on a few of those things. So yeah, nice to meet you all.
Good to meet you too. Excited to have you here.
Okay, great. Let me move into my director report. All right, so Treasurer Moran was able to secure a cup sponsor for us this year. So West Michigan Community Bank is going to be on the logo on the cup. I've got those ordered already. Keeping an eye on the tracking on that one, so I can lose a few hairs on seeing it update and when it's going to show up, but should be good. We're still able to accept some sponsorships past May 15 or past now, but some of them won't make it onto some of our materials, so some of the published materials and things like that, but we can get them on the LED board that will be out there, different thank yous and things like that. It's just that deadline for me to submit logos to posters and banner sponsors and things like that. So you guys know June 12th and August 14th. TJ from O'Brien's has asked to be an official grub sponsor this year. I think the past couple of years they've just been excited to be inside the event space and benefiting from that. But we're going to give them a tent just outside of that, and they're going to be offering some additional non-alcoholic drinks and kid-oriented options. So I was very happy about that because I was looking for those things, sweet treats and stuff outside there. We couldn't get a new logo created in time for this year's Beers at the Bridge. If you guys remember, you approved working with Ivor Design on that. Music on the Lawn was able to get theirs created, but there was some additional revisions and iterations that we wanted to give Ben Shaw a little bit more time to breathe on, the deadline and everything like that. And we were kind of coming up against it where we wanted to get that information out to people to kind of benefit us for the operations of the event and everything. So we just revised some of our, our logo and our kind of font from last year, and we're going to be pushing that out. I'll be putting in the order for stuff this week, but we'll be pushing out the graphics and things like that at the end of the week. So still working with him on that. We'll plan on rolling that out in 27. So you guys just met intern, that's so offensive. You guys just met Sophie Zarnowski. Sorry about that, Sophie. Like I said, she's helping us out with all the events, but I'm trying to make sure that we've got her involved. That was the first time she's seen some of that stuff for the Township Hall study. Obviously making sure that there's a lot of connective tissue down here, and trying to help her out where we can. And then the farmer's market. So Sarah, you guys do have her report in there. I'll probably touch a little bit on that. I think she got pulled away, but we don't have a committee meeting this month because almost all of our vendors are in the heat of produce season and pulling out and getting their stuff ready. But Sarah has done a great job assembling the schedule right now, the composition of the market, food truck sponsors, food truck vendors, a full schedule for rotation, kind of more outline than we had last year, additional kids programming, different things like that. She's got a volunteer that is going to come on and be with her the entire summer, in addition to some of those other volunteers. So there's a little bit more on that, I think, right after this. But Memorial Day on Monday, if you guys are back in town, please try to prioritize this. We did, if you guys remember, we did contribute, or we are still contributing $75,000 to the Connecting Community campaign. The Veterans Memorial is one of the first finished pieces of that Connecting Community campaign. So I have been kind of spearheading the coordination on that for the ceremony with Julius, Wesley, and Kristen Wilds. And so at 1 p.m. we'll have a ceremony, just about an hour. Just want people to come in, appreciate the finishing of the memorial. The black granite faces are actually going on this morning. That is the decorative laser engraved imagery. I'm very excited to get out there and see what that looks like. We're not like really advertising it right now because we kind of want people to gather for that memorial, but you probably have seen it kind of progressing over the course of the past couple of weeks with the granite backings getting set up and then now the decorative faces to actually be placed on them. So been pretty honored to be a part of that. It's an awesome opportunity for me. But we'll be doing that ceremony from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. If you do show up, we do have a little bit of a memento if you do come that we've created, and we encourage people to come see the memorial and then go enjoy the day after 2 p.m. there. So looking at 4th of July, so kind of involved in obviously leading the 4th of July preparations as well with a lot of the other staff. Wesley was kind of spearheading this last year. I've kind of taken the lead role on it this year. And so we currently are getting ready to push the registration for the parade. If you guys remember, maybe you guys remember we were talking about reintroducing a float competition. We've had a couple people reach out already about general registration, but trying to encourage people to do the float registration. $500 downtown gift basket. I'll be probably popping around a couple of businesses here leading up to it. We did want to prioritize music involved in that. That was feedback that we've gotten from a lot of other people attending that. The bands are either one in Philadelphia or they have a very hard break for the summer that they are not allowed to engage or organize with the kids, but we've done our best to try to incentivize that in the competition, in different areas like that, try to highly prioritize that, give extra points for musical elements, things like that. But you guys will probably begin to see that getting posted. Ethan Engel, our program director for the parks, he has put together a registration page on that. And what you guys see displayed there is Ivor Designs, the streetlight banner, and also large kind of 32 square foot, but can live a little bit bigger. Banner that we've come up with for the 250th. That's a custom design. Thank you to Dawn and Lindsay. Also, I was bouncing this off of you guys. You guys remember, the rest of the board might remember, they agreed to kind of consult on streetlight banner. So that's Beers at the Bridge is obviously kind of bouncing off the committee a little bit. And then this one is for really the whole year. By the time we put them up, we're kind of highlighting middle of June, getting them up, and they'll be up until December because it's the 250th. So there was a lot of really cool designs. Ivor did a great job, and I was bouncing it off of staff and also Lindsay and Dawn. So we're pretty happy about this, and we're working on getting them printed soon here. Streetscape fixture update. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Hopefully you noticed there are new benches on concrete pads in the locations that you guys approved. Right now, they are facing the more engaging part of the street. If we do need to change that, we can. By that, I mean facing the businesses instead of facing the cars. And so they are in 7 different locations. If you remember, we paused on one by the bump out just because we want to do something a little bit more dynamic. Didn't want to put a slab in and be committed to something. And then also the ones on Ada Drive that we had 2 of them, I believe, 2 additional benches here on Ada Drive that obviously we're going to be doing some of that work. But Ben Tomic came out and took care of those. The one at the end of the one at the end of Bronson and Old Headley by Ada Depot, that one was unique because of the grade. It kind of slopes down right there. And so they were able to pour in a slab that adjusts for that grade a little bit. Dennis, our BFG director, called that a cuddle bench if it was going to be at the grade, because if you weren't cuddling before when you're sitting on it, you'll be cuddling afterwards. We did level that out, and so it is a nice, actually, Sophie and I went and sat down, and it was a nice kind of seating right there. It's got a good view. Whoever's going to get that for 4th of July is going to have an amazing seat because it's just that's where the turn's going to be. But also Kristen from the Historical Society, we told her that that's there now, and she said, oh my gosh, I've got a plaque that I don't like the location of. That's the here and now, or now and then plaque for Ada. And she's like, I would love to move that over next to the bench. And I was like, I think that'd be great. So it's already kind of instigating some additional stuff. So that's done. And then also the recycling, obviously receptacles have been out for a while. And so we do still have, just so you guys are aware, we put money aside every other year to add additional receptacles and benches and stuff as stuff comes up. So we still have some sitting around to get the benches to get installed once we have those other projects done. But the curb alteration that you guys approved right there under the train trestle, that's closer to River Point. That was also completed. However, there were some ADA, I think, mistakes on some of the pads. They call them truncated domes for visually impaired people to sense that they're about to cross the street. They need to fix that, and I'm going to go meet with him in about 20 minutes to go check those out and make sure that we get them ADA compliant. Working with Providence Concrete, you guys did approve that last fall, but then we got put on hold because of the weather. Support Local campaign, still continuing to work with Ann and Discover Ada. They had a really successful May Women's Night that they were really trying to push people towards redeeming some of the money. There's still $10,000 on the Love Your Local cards, the gift cards. That does remind people every couple of weeks that they have balances on their cards. But if you guys remember, that $10,000 cannot be spent anywhere except for participating businesses. So it is active. It's on those cards. It's it can only be spent at downtown businesses. And so May went pretty well for Women's Night. It was Teacher Appreciation Month. It was Mother's Day. All this other stuff. But we're still looking to make sure that we're endorsing or pushing that as much as possible and getting that in front of people. The parking plan. I told you guys probably 2 meetings ago, I met with Max Gillis, who works for Mobile GR. He's in charge of some of their parking operations. He's been in front of the camera quite a lot lately for this little thing called an amphitheater downtown, and the different programs and things going on there. It was awesome to talk to him. He had a lot of tips talking about negotiating shared parking agreements and things like that. I will be getting back with him. But like I said, I'll be meeting with Regis here on Friday to go through the little online platform that they created for us to work on an iPad to actually log the parking occupancy counts, so we can bounce that off of Fishbeck's when they did it. We'll get this one, we'll get it again, and over the course of the year, try to do it quarterly. So, crowning kind of moment here. Pedestrian safety ordinance was passed and adopted by the Township Board last Thursday. I brought a draft to you guys early on. It has not changed significantly. I apologize if I feel like maybe you guys haven't seen it as much. It's been published, all the legal notices and everything, but it does create enhanced crosswalks, a designation for enhanced crosswalks, which means that we will sign these crosswalks differently with stop for pedestrian signage, but it opens us up to the ability to do other type of treatments that the Road Commission otherwise would not allow us to do because we don't have the law backing that up. We now do. So since that meeting, or not last Thursday, but like the week before that, I met with TJ Likens. He basically said that he's got to do a couple other checks, but I told him, and I'll make sure I bounce this off of staff, bounce this off of leadership, that almost every unsignalized crosswalk in downtown Ada, I would like to have become an enhanced crosswalk, because there's not one down here that I think doesn't warrant it, based off of the circulation and the safety and all the other stuff. And that would mean in-road signage is approved, so the lollipop signs. You guys put aside $25,000 for that type of equipment in our capital improvement. And I did make sure that's going to be in our schedule moving forward. So when they inevitably get obliterated, we can replace them. But TJ did say that acquisition, maintenance, installation, and removal in November, so the plows don't get rid of them, is going to be on us. So we are prepared for that. What long-term conversation, maybe we'll continue to have that with the township a little bit. But they did approve that once it goes out of the center of the road in the winter, they are approving them to be on the sides, and 2 of them. So the law doesn't change in the winter just because they want to plow. So I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy about the conversation with them. Credit to them, credit to other staff that's been working on that. So June 18th is 30 days from the date of publishing. It will be published in a paper on Tuesday, which is the legal requirement, and so then we'll be able to install those. We are still planning on doing the Complete Streets pilot program installation also on Faye Street in Thornapple River, which is public enemy number one, I think, for crossings. But looking to supplement our current ordinance with also a cool demonstration, kind of that the Road Commission has endorsed through GVMC. So a couple of upcoming events there. Thursday, Julius, Wesley, John, and I will be at the Lunch and Learn over at Amway with 100 or so other business owners talking about an ADA update. Our ADA Strong, Connected, and Committed to Quality. It's going to be 11:30 to 1. Restaurant Week is this week, so we're going to be publishing and distributing the specials that the restaurants are pushing out for this whole week. I might be making it to an interview tomorrow on the news. We're trying to split that up. I don't know if I have the time, but we're looking to make sure we're pushing that stuff out for everybody, make sure our restaurants are getting some love this week, and looking at the specials and everything. And Memorial Day commemoration, like I said, is 1 p.m. on Monday. There's some details there also on the Ada Farmers Market report, so that she's got a lot more detail than what I covered, if you guys are curious about that. But other than that, I'll open it up to questions that you might have of me.
On the pedestrian piece, you mentioned potentially starting on June 8th. What do you think the
18th.
Or 18th?
Yep.
What do you think the completion of most of those will be? They'll still be usable in the summer, hopefully.
Oh, yes. What we are not planning anything more dynamic and disruptive than in-road signage to start.
Okay.
So, and that usually depending on the type of sign, and that is also not a sticking point, but a request from the Road Commission. They don't necessarily want bolted ones, but I'm sending them the ones that I would like to utilize, and which I'm bouncing it off of other DDA, our DDA forum that I have with other DDA managers and directors on which ones they utilize and who sources them. But that's the only one that I would anticipate that the installation would not be extremely disruptive and difficult, and that we would have at least all of them done probably in 2-3 days. So that's awesome. In-road signage in the center of the lane and approving that location too. Yeah.
Great.
Great.
Moving on to item 8C, a Farmers Market Manager Monthly Report.
So if you guys have any questions on that, please relay them to me from Sarah. I think she got pulled away for this, unfortunately, but they're getting really busy. She is bringing on an intern as well. Olivia Berg will be helping us out in a couple weeks. She's returning from school. She is local and going to help her out with marketing and everything. And so Sarah is basically has got all the details there. Like I said, we don't have a committee meeting. Those of you that are on our committee, we don't have a committee meeting this month because of how busy the members are. But if you have any questions on that, please forward that to me. June 2nd is our first Tuesday, our first Farmers Market Tuesday. So we'll be start to see some banners and things like that getting put out probably in at least 2 weeks prior to June 2nd. So.
That's good. Item number 8D, Township Department Head Staff Reports. Are there any comments or questions? Item number 9, I'd like to open it up to board member comment.
Just a quick update, the Ada Arts Council has started putting together a public arts program and a projection of how to add more art through the downtown, and so we'll just be starting to get that together to present something, so there'll probably be something at the next meeting to show.
Thank you. Item number 10, is there any public comment? Seeing there's no public comment, a motion to adjourn at 9:25 a.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 9:25 a.m. was made by Tehran. It was supported by Korth. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passed. Thank you, everyone.